Well, Brian, we came to Fort Worth for Colorado's 2023 season opener, the first game of the Coach Prime era, and a shootout broke out. Highly entertaining football game.
Yeah.
What was it, 87 points scored, over 1,100 yards of offense, a new single-game passing record for the Colorado Buffaloes. This team took on the mentality that it's us against the world,
Right.
and that definitely worked out for them here against TCU.
Yeah, it definitely did. You and I projected what we thought would be an entertaining game and thought Colorado would play well, but gave the edge to an experienced TCU team, a ranked TCU team. But, man, this Colorado team came out. They were not phased at all and had a great start. I mean, you come out right off the bat, force a 3 and out, and then come down and score on your first possession. And, they took that mentality. And, I think that they clearly read a lot of stuff that's going on nationally. And I think a lot of what they were saying was more the national perception of them. I think locally, you and I and the others that cover this team have been excited to see what's going to go on with this. And but they certainly read some things nationally and took that on. That, like, hey, Shedeur Sanders was just a SWAC quarterback, before today, and he had been a SWAC quarterback, but we all knew, you and I knew, that, hey, this was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. We were excited to see him play. He lived up to what we've heard about all offseason. The reports coming out of practice were Shedeur Sanders has been lights out in practice, and we were excited to see him play. He was phenomenal. I mean, 510 yards passing, and, you and I were talking during the game. You're like, when was the last 300-yard passer? It was 2019, was the last time anybody even hit 300 yards for this team, back in Steven Montez. But, here he gets 510 yards. First time ever in program history there's 400-yard receivers in one game. They had 3 all of last season. And so the numbers, we haven't even really dove into a lot of them as we're doing this. But I think as we dive into it, we'll be like, what is going on here? Like the numbers here are just insane.
We were handed a sheet of stats after the game, and the scoring usually ends on that first page, and this game had to go onto the backside of it. That's how many points were scored. Now, the defense obviously has a lot of things to shore up, but they come out with the 3 and out, and they get the stop when they really need it, and they finally got some pressure on Chandler Morris on that final drive and make the big stop when they need to. So obviously, I think this is a defense that's got enough talent that it's going to put it together against some lesser talented offenses. But when you go against these offenses that we think are going to be pretty competitive at the Power 5 level, they're going to be in some shootouts, it looks like.
Yeah, obviously you don't want to give up 500-plus yards and 42 points, but to your point, they start the game, set the tone with that 3 and out. They end the game with Miles Slusher making that nice play. Bless you.
Excuse me.
With Miles Slusher making that nice play to get the stop to steal the game. And in between that, you have Travis Hunter and Trevor Woods, both with huge interceptions in the end zone or right near the end zone. And both those guys had tremendous plays. So they didn't stop them a whole lot outside of that, but they got 4 massive stops today.
The crazy thing is, and I think the most encouraging thing for Colorado coming out of this football game is, they made some mistakes. It was far from a perfect football game. Special teams had a lot of issues.
Right.
Even Travis Hunter had a few plays that would have been really tough catches, but there were 3 in the first half that Travis Hunter's so darn good that we see with practice footage that he makes those plays a lot of times. So it's scary to think that this team could get even better than what we saw today.
Yeah, plays that you wouldn't expect any other receiver to make, but with Travis, you're like, he probably should have made that. And he would say he probably should have made that. And special teams, you're right. They had a blocked field goal. They had a kickoff that went out of bounds. They gave up an 86-yard kickoff return that was not a touchdown. Credit to Roderick Ward, great touch or great stop on that. But some mistakes there. Shedeur Sanders missed a couple of passes as well. He throws for 510 yards, but he missed a couple of passes. Jimmy Horn had a couple of drops. So you see some of these things, you're like, man, they can get better. And every team's going to have some mistakes, but hats off to these guys because they came out, they did what they had to do, and really quieted a lot of people and showed everybody, hey, we can play at this level. We're fine.
Trevor Woods, huge interception in the first half. I think that looked like that was going to end up being a TCU touchdown until he stepped in and got that interception. Dylan Edwards, what can you say about his performance? 4 touchdowns in his first college game. Great smile on that young man in the post-game press conference.
Wind bothering you here.
Yeah, man, it is. We're fighting the elements out here. I'm in a walking boot, but we have not enjoyed covering Colorado road games. This is very different, and I could get used to this change.
Yeah, well, I know we've mentioned before, but I tweeted this out today. So we did a picture with all the media that was here covering it, and to me it was a funny tweet. Like, the last road game, the media was me and my son, and to have it be this now, it was a lot of fun. I mean, that last road game at Washington, 59-7. They come back home the next weekend, 63-21 against Utah. We have not seen good football, and it was fun to just cover a game to where, you almost expected the offense, they were going to score when they had the ball. We almost expected in the past, not almost, we just knew they weren't going to score when they had the ball a lot of times. And so it was nice to see some things. I leaned over to Sean Keeley of the Denver Post one time and said, this is what I used to see teams do on TV all the time last year, but it just wasn't Colorado. Yeah. So to see this happen, I know you and I are excited about what this team can do, because it's more fun to cover winning football.
We both thought this was going to be a bowl team.
Yeah.
The ceiling goes up quite a bit now when
Yeah.
you come out of the gates like this. And Shedeur Sanders is learning. He referred to Nebraska as the corn. So maybe we shouldn't put this to bed yet, but next week at Folsom Field is going to be a memorable day for just fans, and being able to be that excited walking into that stadium for a nationally televised game.
Well, I know Colorado fans have been excited about that Nebraska game for a long time, but when they see Nebraska lose 13-10 in week 1 and their team come out and beat number 17 on the road 45-42, the excitement level, I think, just amped up quite a bit over the last couple of days seeing these results. I mean, I'm not sure what to expect next week. I know we'll talk about it more, but I think Boulder's going to be insane next Saturday.
Coach Prime came into the press conference after the game saying, I've kept receipts, and he's paying attention, like you said, to what everything that's being said. I think his perception is, his lens is that he's been a winner at everything he's done. So he really doesn't understand why people could doubt him. You said locally, we didn't really doubt him, but we just had some maybe reservations about certain, maybe the O-line, how good is this group going to be, things like that, but expected this to be a pretty good football team. Nationally, it was always head-scratching how that number could be at 3.5 for the over-under. That never made sense to me. Right. And so there's a lot of people with some betting slips smiling tonight, and I think I think they're going to be okay with that.
Well, and there was a 20.5 point spread coming into this game, and you and I thought that was kind of an insane number. And there's a national guy, we've talked about him here before, but just a week ago, there was a national guy that said this was the worst roster in Power 5 football. I imagine that guy's eating a lot of crow right now. I'm not going to say his name, but I mean, that shut him up quite a bit. When you see what happened out here today, this is not the worst roster in college football. Not anywhere close to that. This is a pretty good roster, and it's one that you and I thought was a roster that could get to a bowl game. I feel more secure about that after this game.
Yeah. Special teams, pass rush, just defense in general, responsibilities, playing your keys properly. There's so much that this team can improve on going into week 2. Where do you even put the ceiling for this team? Is it just see how things go week to week before you start getting too ahead of ourselves with this team?
Well, I think that's what we've learned. At least I've learned covering college football all these years, is that you got to go week to week. What they were today is not necessarily what they're going to be this season. This was one game. Next game is different. Clearly, they've got to play defense better than that. You've got to think. We've got to remember, nobody had film on this Colorado team until now. So now people have film on this team. Now they're going to start to be able to scout some things and scout what Colorado's doing. That was a big narrative coming into this, was TCU doesn't know what to scout. Well, now Nebraska knows what to scout. Colorado State knows what to scout. Oregon, USC, all those teams. So Colorado's going to have to adjust. They're going to have to do some things and learn to adjust as teams adjust to them. And so I think it's too early to really judge this team fully. But I think that what impressed me more than anything, outside of Shedeur and Travis and Dylan Edwards, but those three guys. But what impressed me more than that was the moxie of this team and the way that they really, the resiliency after TCU goes down and scores. They score 2 straight touchdowns and take the lead. Colorado comes right back. Every time they did stuff to we're not losing this football game. And so that, to me, was the most impressive part about this team.
You mentioned moxie. That is Shedeur Sanders' calmness. Yeah. Even though he's not a rah-rah, big vocal leader guy, that has to be so calming for guys around him on offense. I've never seen the guy get rattled, even going back to his time at Jackson State. It just doesn't seem like you can really face him at all.
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, that's what was fun about watching this game, is that even when they got out there, after TCU would score, you think, all right, well, what Shador going to do now to get them down for a touchdown? And he would do it, and he's impressive. And I mean, they would have 3rd and long, and he would complete a long pass, and he would find a way to get it done. And not every single time, but, more often than not. And that's what you want out of your quarterback.
Like I said, I think the biggest takeaway from this is you win the football game and you can get a heck of a lot better as a football team. That's what you want if you're Coach Prime and this coaching staff going forward. All right, we're going to sign off here from Fort Worth. When you see us again, we'll be back in Boulder gearing up for Nebraska.